Hello and welcome back to Mark's Garden UK. Well, actually, as you can probably see, we're not in my garden at the moment. I'm out on the road today and I'm visiting a beautiful garden called the Dorothy Clive Garden. I'm stood at the back of the tea room and over my shoulder is a huge Tetra Panax. But we're going to come back to this. Now, I've already had a recce, so I know what you're about to see. And my conclusion will be at the end of this short video that if you get the chance, please do come and visit the Dorothy Clive Garden. I'll put all the details in the description box below this video. Now, let me show you round. Now, the garden is very well laid out and you get a lovely map when you arrive. At the time of publishing this video, we paid £11 each to enter the garden. It is included in the Gardener's World magazine 2-for-1 scheme, but they're not starting that until July, so make sure you check the terms and conditions. Having said that, I feel that £11 each for this amazing garden is well worth the money. There are so many different zones and different ideas, and it's laid out on a map, and the map is numbered, and I found that I could follow each number, and it took me a little guided tour of its own all round the garden, and that's how I'm going to organise this video today. We'll start off at number 1 through to 2 and then all the way down to number 21. Now, the first thing we did when we arrived was we visited the cafe, which was somewhere around here on the map, and we had an oat cake and a cup of tea, and it was about £10 each, which again was value for money in my opinion. But if you're worried about the cost, then do bring your own picnic. There are several picnic areas around the garden. Now, it is a hilly site, but again, in my opinion, if you take your time and if you hold on to someone's arm if you need to, there isn't any areas of this garden where I don't think most people can access. Let's go to the fish pond at the start of the tour. And so here is the fish pond. Water is slightly green at the moment, which is to be expected, I think, with all the sunlight we're getting at the moment, and the lilies haven't really started to show their true potential yet, although there is a beautiful lily flower just there, and I can see it but you can't. But there's a damselfly landing on the lily pads, and looking up from here you can see the extent of the hillside, but it's quite nicely terraced, and the paths in the main end up being quite level, and that there is the alpine scree. We'll come back to that. I can actually see a few fish in this pond, what look like golden rudd and goldfish, and possibly a couple of orf. And then over here, one of my favourite leafy plants for a bog garden, there's a gunnera, beautiful gunnera. These have massive potential. Over there on the far bank is a rayum plant that I've just bought for my bog garden project. Right, the next port of call is the botanical glasshouse and living wall. Plenty of places to sit en route. One of the nice things I've noticed about this garden is there are benches everywhere, and we've picked a beautiful sunny day. It's the 1st of June 2023. I'm going to come back to this herbaceous border in a moment. Let's go and have a look at the glasshouse. It's over there, and I do apologise, it's the Royal Botanic Glasshouse, no less. It's got an environmentally friendly heating and irrigation system. These look like Musa Basju, and they are almost, in fact, they are definitely already touching the ceiling. I wish mine were this big. Plants for an arid garden in this lovely, warm and light space. And look at this echium, isn't that amazing? But if you think that's amazing, feast your eyes on this echium in a moment. An orange blossom with oranges, a specimen agave, I think that's a yucca, and there's an olive tree living its best life. So there's a little glimpse of the glass house. When you come and visit, you can do it justice. I'm now headed to the William Dean Orchard. It's a quaint, compact, beautiful and perfectly maintained orchard. I'm not sure what all the fruit trees are, but they're obviously doing very well. Lots of baby fruits starting to appear all over the place. The grass is cut all around the trees, but what I love about this space, they've left over 1 metre unmown at the side, and this looks as if it's full of nettles and wildflowers. And isn't that wonderful, because all these blossoms will have needed insects for pollination. So there we are, symbiosis, companion planting, call it what you like. Passing some more herbaceous borders with some amazing flowering plants, thick with insects. We're heading towards the rose border. Through this little windy path lined with what I call catmint. Over here we enter the rose border. Now, I've not really always had a keen interest in roses until recently, and something seems to have clicked. Perhaps it's my age, but recently I've decided that I am actually going to have a rose garden at home, so that'll be one of my next projects. But anyway, let me find some beautiful rose blossoms. I don't know a lot about roses. I know there are various different sizes, shapes and forms, from tea roses to bush roses to climbing roses to rambling roses. And I know that you can select a rose based on its order of merit or hardiness, and also based on its smell. And in this garden they seem to have selected quite a lot of roses which are heavy with scent. And I wish that you, like me, were able to put your nose in these blooms, because they are absolutely intense. It's wonderful. The air is thick and full of the beautiful scent. And you can understand why, because these flowers need to attract insects for pollination. And there is an allium head. Is that a stargazer? I don't know. It's got a different type to the normal alliums, but it's covered in honeybees. Isn't that wonderful? And talking of alliums, I think alliums is a specialty of this garden, because they are everywhere. Somebody must have planted thousands and thousands of allium bulbs, because they're everywhere and interspersed. There are beautiful irises and all kinds of different intense blooms. Look, more alliums down there. And as we pass through the rose arch, through light and shade, the colours change, the intensity changes. And then we go through this rose arch into what is a stunning herbaceous border with some cardoons and some amazing irises, which you will see in their full splendour in a moment. Just off the herbaceous border there is this beautiful little gazebo. Oh, I'm so tempted to copy this in my garden. Anyway, going through it, there's a bench. There are plenty of benches around the place, and then you get almost an aerial view of where we started, which is the pond. Now, there is a waterfall here, which you will see in a moment, but that pond there is independent of the waterfall. I'm just going to walk along the side of this herbaceous border so that you can catch the full majesty of it. The gardeners here do an amazing job, and look at the way the silver leaves of that plant there, which I believe is a cardoon, I'm not entirely sure, contrast with the alliums at the back of it. Look. And I promised you irises. Look at these. What an astonishing colour. We always seem to be joined by helicopters in my videos recently. I did a video this morning on tree ferns, and a helicopter rather intrusively flew overhead. I suppose it's the modern world. You can't really avoid it, but it's not spoiling my pleasure today. I don't know if you can see it, but these allium heads are alive with bees. Wonderful. That's how it should be in a garden. Now, I've just called this the long drive. It's actually properly named the old drive, and it seems to dissect the garden. It comes right down there from the bottom, which is the admissions hut, and then goes all the way up a gradual slope to the top of the hill up there where the tea room is. And then down here there is a large lawn and a picnic area, and actually down there there's an area for weddings. You can actually get married here, and there's a conference room. So if you fancy a day out for your business in these beautiful surroundings, then look no further. Dorothy Clive Garden in Staffordshire. There's the tea rooms. I'm going to bypass it on this occasion because I'm coming back there for a piece of cake in a moment. Let's go up past the conference building. I say conference, it's a small hut, so it would be a small meeting if you were to have one here. Up into the Woodland Walk, but just look at this. Oh, wow. I think that's some kind of hydrangea. It looks like a lace cap hydrangea. And there we are. A bee is enjoying it just as much as I am. Isn't that astonishing? Past the little conference centre, you probably saw me in the reflection, and a couple of marquee gazebo type affairs through into a Woodland Walk. I've mentioned already, I did a recce earlier, so I know what's coming, and I can tell you that they took No Mow May to another level here. Look at this amazing long grass. Isn't that wonderful that they've left all that for wildlife, as it should be, on a Woodland Walk. In a moment you're about to see some beautiful daisies, those tall types. I don't know if they're called oxeye daisies or not, but you're about to enjoy them, as I did earlier. And here they are, basking in the sunlight. There's a tree canopy around most of this garden, which is lovely because it offers shade, but it also offers patches of brilliant sunlight to come through. And what's really lovely, I've noticed, is most of what you see is viewable from a path, and they have also cut paths around the lawns so that you can get access without tripping. And there you can see one of those paths through a lawn surrounded by an uncut grassy meadow. I'm really getting quite excited about this garden. I'm going to join. You can join an annual membership and then you get the day's admission back, so it's well worth it. And I've calculated that if you come back another 2 times in the year, you've got your money back, and there's absolutely no doubt that I'll be coming back here another 2 times in the next 12 months. This woodland path circumnavigates the Quarry area, and there's a lovely romantic and poignant backstory to this whole garden, which is about the Colonel who lived here with his wife Dorothy Clive. So Colonel Clive and Dorothy Clive, and they were both called Clive before they got married, which is an interesting point. Anyway, Dorothy Clive used to enjoy wandering through this space, and towards the end of her life she'd had failing health and Parkinson's, and her loving husband Colonel Clive designed and dedicated this whole garden to her. And now, on his death, the Colonel donated the garden to a charitable trust, and it's all maintained by volunteers and the like, and it's maintained beautifully. I have to say, they work really hard. And so there's a lovely poignant backstory to hear you actually walking in the footsteps of the owners who lived on this site, and everywhere around there are benches to sit with memorials attached to people who have worked here and volunteered here and enjoyed this space. And you can sit there and meditate and enjoy the surroundings underneath this lovely dappled canopy. At the very top of the hill now, and number 17 on the list of named spots in the garden, there is Belvedere, and we're approaching over in the far corner a wooden building, a wooden gazebo if you like, and there's a little sign to the right, and I don't know if you can see it, which explains that this gazebo can be used for weddings. Imagine on a day like this having your chairs laid out on this grass here and having your wedding ceremony on there. It can also be used for theatrical productions. So imagine on a summer's evening doing a little Shakespeare, watching or performing in a little Shakespeare on this stage. And down there, we'll just, to prove the point, have a look at the sign. But as we approach the sign, let's have a look at that view. Isn't that amazing? The edge of the garden and they've cleverly left a space. Borrowed landscape, they call it. Not that you need to borrow any landscape in this garden, but there you are, looking over the sunlit rolling hills of Staffordshire. It's wonderful here. So let's just go and have a look at a picture of a wedding in the garden known as the Belvedere. The end of the azalea walk leads you into a shady corridor, almost tunnel-like, but you are in for a treat and a surprise, because this leads us through to the Laburnum Arch. I've never seen one of these like this before. Let's go and have a look. And so we leave the Laburnum Arch into a winter wonderland, which is absolutely chock-a-block full of what I think are shuttlecock ferns, and I've just planted 6 of these in my fernery, and I really do hope that they turn out as wonderful as these. Look at them. They do look like shuttlecocks, but look at the height. They've got a very tall habit for a fern, and you walk through this space and you feel like you're walking through a prehistoric landscape, with areas of dapple shade, and never forget to look up at the light on the trees. Spectacular. We're now about to enter another part of the garden, which is known as the Quarry Garden and Waterfall. And I would say if any area of the garden is less accessible, it's probably that area of the garden. But having said that, you can still get to it if you use the gradual sloping paths which are all around this space, so I wouldn't let that put you off if you want to give it a go. And here's Rudolph. I didn't expect to see Rudolph here in June, but I think he's a living sculpture, so probably a permanent sculpture. Look at that, planted into the ground, and parts of him are growing. Isn't that amazing? Probably good for kids, that. I can imagine my nephew and my niece really enjoying the novelty of that living sculpture. So here he is, the stag. Amazing, a life-size bronze, commissioned in the year 2000 and paid for by the Friends of the Garden Trust. And he stands up there, quite majestic. And that is about 7 foot tall. And from its foot or feet comes the water. That water is actually pumped up from the pond at the bottom of the waterfall, which you will see in a moment. And so here we are at the bottom of the waterfall. I shall give you a closer view in a moment. Please don't allow the fact that I've given you a guided tour and included many of the features of this garden put you off from coming to visit, because this video just can't do it justice. I mean, you don't get the smells, you don't get the vividness of the colours. Amazing. You don't get really the sounds, but you don't get the experience unless you come and see it for yourself. I love the sound of water in a garden. And so now we finish our tour with a little wander around the bottom of the Quarry Garden. Lots of shady woodland paths looking up into the canopy. You can hear other people naturally. There are other people visiting the garden today, but you can also hear birdsong all around. It's beautiful. It's peaceful. Quite a wonderful garden. The Dorothy Clive Garden in Staffordshire. I'll put the details in the description box below this video. I'm now going to enjoy a cup of tea and a slice of cake. And just in case I haven't already mentioned it, or for those who didn't hear me, if I have already mentioned it, if you join on the day, you get that day's admission refunded, which makes it even better value, because you can then come back as many times as you want in the year. So there we go. Why not become a friend of the Dorothy Clive Garden? As a slight postscript, you'll also find a gift shop and a plant sale. So come armed with your cards. It is card only, they don't take cash. And then at the back of the cafe and gift shop, we arrive back where we started, which is some amazing tetrapanax just showing after the winter, and that to me looks like a rayum, which I've just bought one of for my bog garden.